Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. So we want to thank everybody for your support over on Patreon, and we couldn't do it without you guys. And looking at the headlines here, we see a U.S. spy plane ditches off the Hawaii coast. Military intelligence aircraft overshot the runway and ended up in shallow waters. So, again, there's no details on what exactly happened. It was rainy. It was foggy. They said visibility was only about 1 mile. Was it just simply a case? Yeah, which
That means something.
Poseidon?
Yeah, Poseidon
Well,
means something.
well, this is a surveillance plane, and so it's a military surveillance plane, they're all really, really active right now. There's so much hardware going over to the Middle East, most of it going over to the Middle East. There's not as much going over to Ukraine anymore. But really, they are working overtime to get things in place for what comes next, which we definitely have a strong opinion on.
Right. This name though, Poseidon. It's really jumping out to me. I don't know if anyone else knows of anything else that's named. It's speaking to something.
It's the Greek god of the oceans, Poseidon. And again, when you look to all these Greco-Roman gods, they are, here's that word, make it a wiki, Anunnaki. And that is what we are talking about in reality. This is why, again, you have an Enlil satellite at NASA. Hello, Poseidon. When you look to the different missions that NASA has done, Mercury, it's all the mythology, but in reality, they're all kind of just shooting energy towards the Anunnaki.
Right. So I'm looking at this and taking down Poseidon. I feel like, and you mentioned earlier, could this be like a energy zap? Because to me, missing such a big target with such a big plane, I don't know. That's like overshoot, or is somebody really that off? I guess it could happen, but it makes more sense that it was taken down. So is somebody sending a message to Poseidon saying, I can take you out?
Well, again, there was the case where we had the gosh, which was it? Now I'm forgetting which country's personnel it was, but there was turning on the sonar and endangering Navy personnel. We were talking about that. Yeah, that was Australia. Okay. That's right. So that was Australia. And so, I was just wondering if this was another test of technology to see if they can affect it. And we had that one airplane, too, that went missing, per se, and then they said, no, it crashed. It crashed in South Carolina. But then, remote viewing it, we see it tucked away somewhere, and people were talking about the tests that had been done. In this case, all 9 people on board the aircraft survived and swam to the shore. Now, is it just because there's always crews of 9, or was that a symbolic number as well? Like right. Completion here. Okay, mission accomplished. We completed the test. Meanwhile, you have the Houthi seizure of the Galaxy leader. There's a lot going on. As we were talking about, we have in so many different locations over in the Middle East and the Mediterranean area, it's just jam-packed with military hardware. And this is going to go hot. It's just a matter of when and what that looks like. Whether they're just going to let a simple mistake happen because it's bound to happen at some time and then roll with it, or if they'll trigger that mistake.
Yeah, right.
That's another thing. This was an empty, cargo liner that if it was full, likelihood is it would have been carrying cars. Now, there was nothing for them to sell from a pirating aspect of it. And what are you going to do with this? But still, it puts all ships over in the Red Sea basically on alert. As again, this is what happens in war. Things like this get shot and sunk constantly. And even, again, Lusitania, even passenger liners can be shot and sunk. And in the case of Lusitania, that was basically all about building up public sentiment to get into the war. So, we understand how that all works. And of course, Zelensky's crying. It's not Jamie's crying, it's Zelensky's crying because he's not getting his usual billions atop of billions that he was, because now a lot of it is going over towards Israel and Gaza and the greater Middle Eastern theater. So this is all part of the buildup now that's going to end up connecting all these little conflicts into one big conflict.
I don't know. Are they just done, using the laundry room? So now they just say it's over.
Okay. So they finally got everything laundered. Yeah, that could be. That could be too. There's been so many things that we could piece together. I saw one poor soldier was getting a bill from the U.S. military because he was responsible for some pieces of equipment that were left behind in Afghanistan. And this is a soldier that might be, I don't know what he's making, $2,000-$3,000 a month, maybe, getting a multiple $1,000 bill for equipment. That's just kind of rude. As we know, the system is so corrupt at the highest levels, like when we're talking about these names like the Red Shields, what are they really worth? Well, I mean, what is a printing press worth that you could just put into operation at any time to make more? When you think about it, going to digital currencies, who's going to monitor where those digits and those decimal points go? Really? I mean, it's not tangible. It's in my mind totally ridiculous. But so is so much of what's going on in the world. It's totally ridiculous. And yet still, even though we have a ton of people waking up, the majority of the world is still sleepwalking.
I look at this and I know one thing everyone can agree is that whatever the story is at face value, that's not it. So it's like some other stuff. And then, I mean, when it comes to money that you can just push zeros. I'm looking at a keyboard and I have somebody's account or my own account. I can just push some zeros and add that on to my own account. I mean, how can anyone say that that's a valid choice in money besides the controllers, and they need a whole bunch of other people to go along with it? It's just, I hate playing this game with them.
Yeah, absolutely. This whole, the way everything is viewed, for instance, like they were giving the numbers and said that Ukraine lost over 13,000 troops this month. That's 13,000 lives lost. They're talking about troops because it disassociates you. And, sometimes the disassociation works. Like, bless my mother's soul, so to speak. But she didn't even understand exactly what a hamburger was. The fact that it's ground up muscle tissue of cows. That's what it is. And, by giving something a different term, hamburger, steak, Cindy named...
we named our steer hamburger and T-bone. Right.
Yeah, and this is done purposely, disassociation from what's actually happening. War is just it's just an insane atrocity, and especially when these wars don't have to be, they're completely orchestrated. So you see these rockets going off, where they land, people go into thousands of little pieces. This is just horrible. And it is, when they dress them up in their little suits, that is being groomed for sacrifice. Blood sacrifice is a reality in this world, and we call it war.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty horrible, and that's the story that we have over and over.
It really is. It never stops. It's just, the insanity is that people can't see it, but the reality is they can't, because their minds are not clear, and they have the conditioning in their minds that gives them some sort of semblance of justification. But there is no justification for it, is the reality. Especially when we take a step back and we look at all the different things that go into motion to make it possible to continue to control people through fear and division. China steps up support for Palestinian cause in a challenge to U.S. Mideast policy. And yeah, China, at this point in time, it seems like their economy is having issues. They are having protests. Everywhere there's protests. They don't like to cover that because the reality is there is one unified system behind all this apparent division. And yes, China's been very busy working in the Islamic world. And again, even though we have that one overarching system, you have to understand the mentality of those that are really controlling it. They view everything that happens on this planet as just a game to them. It's a resource. The planet is a resource to them, but they also view human suffering in some cases as being sport. Look to the Roman emperors. Look to the Colosseum. This is who they are, because again, it's not going to be long before you get to see them. You will get to see them if you can make it, another handful of years. You will get to actually see them with your own eyes, if you do have sight, that is. Over here in the Philippines, it marks the beginning of a joint maritime and air patrols. As we were talking about when we were looking at the USNI naval map, it hit me like, wow, I have never seen so much force deployed everywhere, really everywhere, circling the Mediterranean, in the Red Sea, out in the Gulf as well, and over around China, the Philippines. There are war games going on. They do have war games all the time. Of course they do. They seem to never have a time when there's not war games going on now. The part of the thing that's different is that you'll have series of war games going on, one right after the other, and the troops stay in the general area. So what's really going on is we're heading towards like a full deployment, which again, many people have said, well, geez, if we got all our forces over there, especially when you look at it going all the way back to Operation Enduring Freedom, where we started to deploy a lot of Coast Guard. Coast Guard is supposed to be guarding our coast. No, there's a lot of Coast Guard deployed abroad now. So what it's doing is it's leaving us wide open. So yes, there are barbarians at the gates. Just, again, look to the fall of Rome and we see the exact same thing happening as we see yet another mass shooting. Beaver Creek, Ohio. This is a Dayton suburb. Please do send your prayers for all involved. 4 injured. Suspect was taken out. And again, what was in his noodle? What was really going through his mind? When I see that, they'll always point to the fact that he's walking around with whatever it is, something that's an AR-15 derivative. Why does nobody just say, well, what scripts was he on? What chemicals were altering his mind, etc., as well as obviously all the frequencies. Police to roll out operator-initiated facial recognition. They will use mobile phone cameras, take photos of faces, and plan to identify 100% of people to set up a roadmap for OIFR on a national level. Yeah, this is over in the UK. So everything, even though we have more and more people waking up all the time and understand what's going on, it's still going on. It's still going on. And we still have more and more rivers in the desert, as we see here. This is in Saudi Arabia. There are changes underfoot, absolutely. And it is definitely hard to sort through and find out exactly what portion of this is natural, what portion of that is artificial. So this very well could be a meteorite that actually went through the roof of a car here in Francia. Interesting, is it not? Curious.
I would run out and go buy a lotto ticket. I mean, what are the chances of that? That's dead center, right in the center. It looks like everything is okay. The person was not in the car, but my gosh, the chances of that happening, I mean, really, go gamble. Just kidding.
And we have more and more disclosure coming out in bunches. And when you look back throughout time, you start to realize how much has been put out there. How many people that have been either in the CIA, FBI, DOD, anywhere of note with insider information have come out. How about, officials even like Paul Hellyer and others? This is Luis Elizondo, stated that this back in 2020, the Pentagon had a clear image of a mysterious triangle emerging from the ocean, recorded by military pilots. Well, most of the triangles are ours. Most of the triangles are ours, or it could be a combination of us with the Draco reptilians.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you see a triangle, you know that that's been put together very, very special, and there's different types of entities on them. It's not always, just us, and it's not always just them. There is a certain level of the military where they do work together, but I wouldn't say it's very comfortable.
When you see the cigar-shaped ones, like this photo from 1967, this was over New York, and it was supposedly releasing smaller saucers. This is one that you're less likely to see humans on, but just reptilians and grays.
Right. This one is something that is pretty much loaded with reptilians, and the grays are the little worker bees. They're the ones that they send out on the little saucers to do their missions, to do their, the little grays, they can blend into anything, and you just never know when there might be one around you. But then again, people's perception is picking up so much. If you ever feel something like just total fear, if you just, if you feel somebody's watching you, you're probably right.
Yeah, absolutely. How do we come by this knowing? Well, again, it's through direct experience as we've been out in the desert and been tailed by grays, and we've had ships come and buzz us, and we've had awesome, not just us, but both of us have kids and parents that were monitored and watched by them. They always watch. They know. So again, 3D, 4D, they're sides to the same coin. They're able, because again, when we're talking about Draco, we are talking about entities that are able to venture into the lower realms of 4D and also influence and overshadow people here in 3D. And there are grays that can, quote unquote, dematerialize and materialize, and there are technologies that can give that appearance. And, much of the world was made aware of that through the movie Predator, but in reality, it's not far off.
No, and the whole reason behind, you really want to connect to the spirit mind. You want to connect to the higher self, because this 3D realm, it's like their playground. It's where they connect through. It's where they manipulate from. So there's a lot of things, a lot of traumas. There's a lot of manipulation here in the 3D, and you want to definitely have the ability to kind of skip all of those traumas and not have to deal with the chaos that they can create. I'm not saying skip traumas. We have to work through our traumas, but you don't want to get caught up in the chaos. And just know, those little buggers, they are out there creating fights. They are out there creating issues between people, and they're causing problems, and they're creating chaos, and you don't want to get sucked in it. So the best thing to do is definitely get your spiritual practice going so you can bypass that chaotic nature of things. And then I don't want to scare people and make them think, oh, there's things watching me all over the place. Well, probably, but it's something that you just go past. Mike and I, we really don't think anything of it anymore. It doesn't do any good to think anything of it. We just go about our lives. We do our mantras. We get higher minded, and we go up and above. That's what we do.
Yeah. And again, we lean heavy into the mantras because they are connecting us to beings that we know are much higher frequency, well beyond 4D. And here we have aliens will reveal themselves in 2027 with public being prepared, claims ex-CIA agent. Yeah, absolutely. That feels right. 2027 feels very right. Actually, that would be a good choice, I think, to make, because what we're looking at with what's coming is war's going to dominate the last couple months of this year, last month into 2024. 2024 is all about war, and not that they can't also have other big events of earth change slash technology related, and as well as the possibility always of new plagues upon the land. But 2024 is all about war. And then also, you know, when we get past that period, that's when, because we will find if they're successful in their mindset, they want to give everybody that Xi Jinping style governance. That's exactly. I mean, when you see Klaus saying, "Wow, what a job they do over there," there's a reason why. And yet again, it's just recognizing that the system is more user friendly from their point of view, not ours. And we see all the technology going into play. The technology is going to blow your mind. And I've shared when the guides first gave me the vision back around 83 of this period, I couldn't even begin to understand the technology. Now I can, because in 1983 we didn't have cameras on every corner. You didn't roll through a stop sign and all of a sudden find that you got a ticket in the mail or via email. There was no email for most people. There might have been in the military circles. It was just a different world. And now, facial recognition everywhere. Satellites, there always were satellites up there, by the way. We've talked about the Black Knight and the White Knight satellites before. We'll try to bring things like that back in, just because, again, there's always new people coming in. There's always been tons of satellites. There is a grid over us. And I think this is, again, where some of those concepts that the flat earthers have, while there are some aspects to their concepts that are correct, they're also way off in some other aspects. There is a technological grid around the planet. Absolutely. And its intention is to keep humans in isolation. And that part is real, but there still are, extraterrestrials coming and going all the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the biggest things is definitely keep humans in their 3D grid in the chaos, using the technology, and hold you down. So, I mean, not everyone is going to be able to disconnect from it and move away. But if you're at least aware and listening to videos like this, you're one that's on a path to, further the separation from the chaos of the 3D. So you're not going to be used as, a doll for one of them. You're not going to be a subject for their antics.
Yeah, absolutely. It is going down. And again, some people don't believe that they're aliens. Well, again, that mindset that all extraterrestrials, all beings on other planets are just demonic. That's not accurate. And it's not accurate to think that this is the only place that there's life, because there's not. There's life everywhere, all over out there. Life is the norm. And again, when we look to the Hindu holy books, we find that there's that recognition of like over 100,000 humanoid species out there in our own galaxy. Yeah, it's teeming with life. And the indigenous people of the world knew that. That's why they really are in such limited numbers at this point in time. We see this is on Easter Island. When we look at the architecture and just how precisely these things were put together, it's just mind-blowing. And again, the farther back in time we go, we find that the technology is higher. And we really don't have official recognition of how they do it, and even how they move some of these blocks, which we know they were using sound to move them.
Yes, they use sound. And I'm just looking at this picture here and how they have this little block, and I don't know why is that etched out. It's just almost comical that it would be so easy to etch out the bigger blocks to fit around the little blocks. I mean, is that just a badge of how someone's just an amazing builder or what? It really is incredible.
Well, I think they understand too, those that understand the cycle of the yugas understand that there will come a time when everybody's going to be looking at this and marveling, or just looking at it and not getting it. And so, this could be a little bit of a joke in time.
Right. I mean, how did he just etch that out? It was fun for him.
Here we have Bob Lazar. Again, this is another scientist who supposedly was working for the government, Area 51, exposes classified religious documents. And he talks about how the extraterrestrials view us and as our bodies as just containers. Religion was specifically created to basically have control over us and to give us some sort of level of morals, according to what he's sharing here. And he's not the only one that has said that, yes, these beings do create our religions. They're the ones that hand it down to the humans to run with it, to become the popes of the world, the priests of the world, start the new religious movements. When you look to Joseph Smith, again, he was a 33rd degree Mason, the founder of the Mormon Church. And so was Charles Taze Russell, the founder of Jehovah's Witnesses, another 33rd degree Mason. Then you look to King James Bible. He was the head of all Masonic lodges in Scotland and England. Yeah, where does this come? It comes straight down from the demons themselves. So, yeah, but it's interesting when you look to the Hindu holy books, and you look to what's given to us as asuras, which are demonic beings, so to speak. Demonic in the sense that they are selfish. They have no concern for anybody else. They kidnap and enslave anybody they want. They don't come from here. They come here to basically plop themselves down, take over an area, and directly rule a tribe. And then they are humanoid because, again, humans have been modified from the original form. And in reality, there's much more similar life forms out there than people would think. And the reason for that is because life is purposely created by the Creator. What we would call life in this 3D realm is purposely created by the Creator of this universe so that it can become an exploration for the eternal soul aspect. And so we can come and have a life as a human being on Earth. We can have a life as a humanoid being in the Pleiades or Sirius or Andromeda or somewhere else.
And I think this is so very telling. When I was more part of a church group or trying to really grasp the Bible, just trying to tie my heart and soul to something bigger than myself, because I knew I'm a spiritual being. This is an instinct that I have. And so many people have this instinct. It's like they know there's something bigger than themselves. So they take, whatever is right there. But after I woke up, it's like, I know that this is a lie. I can't do this anymore. I've read the source material. I've gone to the source material. All of this is taken and it's compiled, to control me. And I knew that. So going in, to different meetings, Bible study groups and whatnot, it just became more and more difficult. And one thing that Bob Lazar was saying that I was watching here is, why would there be classified religious material? Why? And unless it has something to do with understanding that aliens are controlling. And I think that's something that I would have used to arm myself to go to Bible study and maybe wake up 10 other people and say, hey, there's this classified religious stuff. What do you guys think about that? Let's talk about that. Let's not just talk about what's here. Let's talk about what's there. That would have been fun for me, not making fun of anyone by any stretch, but a serious conversation with people in my Bible group.
Yeah, but I mean, when you think about what they've done is Satan, again, just means adversary. Angel just means messenger. Many angels come from the Pleiades. Many angels come from Sirius. They come from different star systems because in reality, they're what we would call non-physical beings, but they're still extraterrestrials.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they're all over.
And when we talk about Satan, we just mean, it just literally means adversary. Somebody that is actually, whether you know it or not, competing against you in a negative manner, controlling you, working against your welfare and the betterment of yourself for yourself. They're actually using you. So what they give you is a twist with all these stories. And again, it's utilized to control the minds, control the perspective, control the lens that we look at the world through. And, what better plan than to tell you, there is a creator and there is an evil force. And it's the evil force that's actually telling you about both sides and actually portraying both sides.
Mm-hmm. And the biggest blessing about being here on this realm are emotions, but also the biggest curse and one of the biggest controlling factors are our emotions. So when you try to sit down and talk to somebody on the level and say, hey, let's bring this stuff into question, they just can't do it. It's like something spikes in their soul because of the indoctrination and they push back. Well, I wish people could get more to where they're not so guarded and they could just sit and let's have a talk, on a level playing field and just ask questions and not freak out. I think that's where we're going. It's just taking a while to get there.
Many people know that we're not too far off from seeing them. And here is another person saying that their son says they're going to start showing up between 2025 and 2028. I've seen different numbers guesstimated at what percentage of the population literally has experienced abduction. And it's much higher than people realize because, again, this is a genetic control program that's underway. They're looking to create the perfect slave species. This is what they're doing. So, when we talk about, the Anunnaki blessing us with their upgrades, they gave us their gene. Really what they're doing is downgrading us, and they are fearful again. They are fearful of us because we have in us more potential than they do. Yes, they have much higher technology than we do, but they're on a true evolutionary dead end. They can't go any higher. They're stuck. They are stuck. They cannot climb up, into areas that we can climb into. And so there is a jealousy and a fear because we can go where they can't. And so, there are some stories that, attribute exactly that story to angels. But again, angels are beings that we would look at as non-physical that are doing a certain job. Now, the job of angels is basically to maintain order and to follow the original programming by the original creator, but they do it as a choice. Because again, there is free will out there. There is not a creator that created this in order to put souls into positions of being nothing but chess pieces that the creator will move. So every time people say, well, it's God's plan, it's God's plan, it's God's plan, you're taking power away from yourself. You're taking your decision making away from yourself. That's the dark side that is always programming that in you. Yet at the same time, there is some validity to the concept that your higher self, the you that is up in, say, 5D, 6D, or beyond even, well, your higher self might have a plan for you that you don't fully understand because you've fallen under this illusion that the system gives and have fallen under all the chemicals, all the foods, all the frequencies that cloud our clear connection with our higher selves, which that connection is not clouded in a golden age. And in a silver age as well, we understand who we are so much more. It's really only as we get to the latter period of the Bronze Age and then the Dark Age that we don't understand these things and we really get into full amnesia. We lose track of the purpose for life. I saw some very accurate, from our understanding, comments out there about how, disease really is not normal. It really isn't normal, because we've been given these vessels that really can continue to go on almost indefinitely. And it's said in the golden age, humans have to just simply come to the conclusion that they're done having a human experience, and the higher self, the soul, will move on and try something different. It's like, okay, I'm done with this. And it's said in the Greek mythologies that humans will simply at that point in time lie down and they'll just go to sleep and they'll just leave the body. Well, we do have Tibetan monks that can do that type of thing right now in this age, where they just go into a meditative state and they just simply leave the body. Same thing with some yogis that can do that, and other indigenous people. When you look at these groups, it's a perfect circle. That's a perfect circle with stairs. Again, it's called the Bath of the King. Extraterrestrial, perhaps, a great view. Terraced over here, a terraced landscape. We find these things all over in the New World as well as in the ancient world. And this is something else that is a part of the purpose for Nonstop War. It's to hide things from the public. U.S. admits military damage, Babylon ruins. Yeah, oh yeah. This is one of the biggest things, is they got to erase the real past from us.
Just really quick, because we got to get going. We have some stuff we need to do today. But going back to that tub, in the stone, that circular tub. I mean, that's not just for someone to sit in and bathe. This has healing qualities in it. This has vibrational qualities in it. This is something that they understood. The stone is really your friend. It repatterns. And when I work on people, I have this very special crystal that has been gifted in such a wonderful, beautiful way. And now when I pattern people with her, I mean, she puts off such a resonance, and she's so happy to do it. It's awesome. So stone, this is our elders. This was a healing place to go with the pool there.
Yeah, as were the pyramids originally as well. Those were healing centers, and people would line up to come there in droves. Here we have a composite picture of the pattern forces of the body and their wireless circuits. Yeah, again, the Ida and the Pingala, there's so many references that people will take as being demonic and evil. And in reality, it's just how our circuitry works. When we look to the shape of the human energy field, it's a torus, just like the planet, and just like just like everything. It's as above, so below. It's fractal, and this is the shape of the universe as well. And we are, our bodies are bioelectric, and of course, when we talk about heavy metal toxicity, as this is talking about, that affects the flow of energy. So anything that's a heavy metal will directly affect your energy flow. This is just obvious, absolutely obvious. So then we have to ask ourselves, why? Well, again, Satan means adversary, so it's certainly not from the beneficial side of things. You cold? Yeah, it's time to come out and smell the coffee. It's time to get out from underneath the system. It's time to keep awakening others.
Indeed.
Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.